So, Larry, people have told me and have remarked constantly that you are an exceptionally kind person. Now, how does that jive with being a cutthroat lawyer and, sticking it to the other side of trial?
Yeah. Well, they are not mutually exclusive, because you can be kind and you can be compassionate, especially when you're dealing with your client, because that's really important, because the client is a human being, not a number. And yet, and I kind of have a philosophy, I usually don't draw first blood, but once they do, then they've brought down the thunder.
With the defense.
Yeah, with the defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's a whole different ballgame. And a lot of people are like that. I mean, you might I'm just thinking of people in general, they seem very kind. And you're the same way, Rob. I mean, you're even keel and you're compassionate. Yet I've seen when somebody's gotten under your skin, or there's been a wrong and you want it to be right, I've seen you be very passionate. So compassion.
The little man anger comes out.
Oh, but here it is, compassion and passion.
Right,
okay?
right.
So they can work together, compassion and passion.
Because that's fighting for the underdog. I guess that's what that's all about. I have told this story before, and I don't know if you remember.
Tell us the story, by the way, Rob.
Well, we get this attribute, I think, from our folks, from our parents. And my dad, our father, was notoriously sweet and kind and empathetic to people. And we had this house painter. I won't mention his name, but he's probably long gone. But
sure.
He was painting the house. I must have been 10 or 11 years old. And this guy was taking a month to paint a house. And, okay, he was by himself, so, he was there for months, or it seemed like months. And finally I said, hey, Dad, this guy is taking forever to paint the house. Everyone's remarking about it. Everyone's talking about it. It's weird. Why don't you just fire him? And he said, that man's an alcoholic, and I don't think he can get another job. So I'm just going to let him finish,
Yeah. Now, drawing from that, I've told this story before. When I was in junior high school, I was kind of a character anyway. So I got in trouble in Spanish class, and I had to go to the vice principal. And back then they gave SWATs. They'd have a paddle and they'd give you
Deservedly so, I'm sure.
I'm sure I did deserve it. Anyway, so I had to bend over for the SWAT. And the necklace, I had like beads that were
hippie beads
underneath my shirt. So the beads come out, and the vice principal, who's about to give me a SWAT, says, give me those beads. You're not allowed to wear them. I said, well, they're underneath my shirt. Nobody sees them. I'll give them So I guess I got sent, I think I was sent home right after I got the SWAT. And I told my mom that they took my beads. And all of a sudden...
Your mom?
Yeah, okay. Our mom.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I look out the window, and she's already out the door, and she's like 5'2", maybe even shorter than that, 5'1", and she's going like this. I'm going, oh my. And the middle school, the junior high school, was within walking distance, a couple of blocks away, and she's just on a mission. And maybe a half an hour later, she comes back. I said, Mom, where'd you go? She says, I went to that vice principal. I told him, don't you ever mess with my son again, and give me back those beads. And certainly they did. And so that's the other aspect of our character. When there's something wrong, we try to make it right.
And so I think empathy is a two-sided, or I don't know if it's two-sided, but empathy comes from within, but it also comes from without. And what I mean by that is that I think most people have natural empathy. If you're walking down the street and you see someone fall down and they look like they're in pain or they got hurt, natural reaction is to go over there. Hey, you okay? You okay?
Certainly.
I think for most people. But to place someone else, a stranger, in that setting, to get them there. Okay, here's what happened to my client. They were driving in their car, and someone pulled a Yui in front of them, and bam, and their head hit the steering wheel or whatever. They may not be able to feel that same level of empathy as if they were standing right there and saw it, unless you or me or us.
We have to transport them there. And we try to get that image in their mind, because if they see that image, this is like the trier of fact, the jury. If they see that image and we take them there,
Feel that image.
yeah, it impacts them, as opposed to just throwing out some words that just go right over their head.
Yeah.
And we know that there's a saying that it's not what you say, it's how you make someone feel, essentially.
People will hardly ever remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. That's a Maya Angelou, and I think it's absolutely true.
Yeah, and that's what we do with the jury. We want them to
Experience it.
yeah.
How are you going to get someone who wasn't there? This happened 2-3 years ago. How are you going to get them to feel the same level of empathy or compassion or even sorrow for this individual who experienced this bad thing? How are you going to get them there? That's the art. And I think it starts with that kindness that you naturally have, that you want to walk in their shoes for a while. And when you walk in their shoes for a while, you start to understand, okay, how am I going to get someone else to walk in their shoes without telling them to walk in their shoes, without inviting them to walk in their shoes with words, because that's the golden rule prohibition. You can't do that. You can't say, imagine it happened to you. You can't say that to a jury. That's right.
That's a no-no.
So we've talked about some really cool stuff
Compassion,
today: compassion, empathy,
fighting for our clients.
what it's like for someone to go through something terrible like a traumatic brain injury, and the challenges they face, including the challenges of just getting care, and who's going to provide that care, what if there's no insurance, all that kind of stuff. And so where does it go from there, you think?
Well, I'm not really sure what you mean by that. But, I mean, we're looking to get justice for our client. And unfortunately, we can't turn back the clock and make them better. All we can do is get them some kind of money justice.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
But I do think we go a little further than that, because money is the thing that we use to try and fill in that gap. We try to make them whole with money, because that's all you got, really. But I think we also give that client, or our clients, that sense of comfort, I guess would be the word, sense of ease, sense of, I guess the word is justice, where you feel like, okay, we did all that we could and all that we can, and no one's going to do it any better.
Right. And we care. And we talked about staying in contact with our clients. And like on their birthdays, I've called some of the severely injured clients that have overcome all these obstacles. And so it just doesn't, but it just doesn't end right there. We really do care about the client. And I think that kind of is an underlying thought process for both of us, that we care what happens to this person. There's just something about, I guess, maybe the way we're raised and just how we've developed our relationship with our clients, because we get a lot of business from repeat clients, and referrals.
We've represented hundreds of them, and I still remember their names, their faces, most of them. what their situation was. I'll get calls from people I represented 10, 15 years ago.
I got a call the other day. A client says, you handled my case, and I wanted you to help me on another matter. And I looked up in our closed files, which we have in our database, and it was 14 years ago. So I hadn't talked to this person for 14 years, and he still remembered it. And I think that says something about us. And that, yeah, I think it does.